For the starting wrapper provided in the resources of this video, this is the second step of creating the Hangman project. In this step, we have three more to-dos to complete. The first to-do is to create an empty list called display, and for each letter in the randomly chosen word, we have to add an underscore to the display list. So let's say the chosen word was apple. Apple has 5 letters, so we should add 5 underscores to the display list. And each underscore will just represent a letter in apple. The second to do is to loop through each position in our chosen word, and if the letter at that position matches the user's guess, then we should reveal that letter in the display at that position. So what this means is that whatever letter the user guesses, for example, let's say they guess P and the chosen word, let's say, was apple. Then what we have to do is we have to loop through the apple word or the chosen word, and after each of the letters we have to check, is that letter the same as the user's guess? If it is, then we are going to find out the position of that letter, and then whatever the position is, we are going to replace the underscore of that exact position in our display list to the letter that the user guessed, which in this case would be P. Apple has two P's at the first index and at the second index. So we are going to replace the first index and the second index of underscores in our display list to P. And finally, the third and the final to do is to just print out our display list. So pause the video and complete all of these to-dos. Now let's walk through it together. First, we will create the list display. It will just be an empty list. And now what we are going to do is we are going to create a for loop. So for I in the range of length of our chosen word. So what I'm doing is I'm using the range function and I'm running the loop for however many letters that there are in my chosen word. So if the chosen word has 5 letters, the loop will run 5 times, and each of those times we will just add an underscore to our display list like so. So if the word was, let's say, absolute. Now absolute has 8 letters, meaning this loop will run for 8 times, and each of those times we are going to add an underscore to our display list, meaning the display list will have 8 underscores. Now when you don't really need to store any value in the variable right over here, you can just leave it as an underscore like so. Now let's just print out the display list to see if it works or not. So in here it says that the solution is beekeeper, and beekeeper has 9 letters, and if we see, our display list has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So our display list also has 9 underscores, meaning that we have successfully completed to-do number 1. Now let's move on to to-do number 2. So in here we have to loop through each position in our chosen word, and at each of those positions we have to check, is the letter at that position the same as the letter that the user guessed? If it is, then we will replace that position with the letter that the user guessed in the display list. So this might sound confusing, but let's move forward. For that we will have to update our for loop, since right now we are looping through each of these letters. But what we really want is to use the range function so that we can see at what position we are and check the index of each element. So we are going to be doing something like this. So for range in the length of our chosen word, like so. So if the chosen word was apple, this loop will run 5 times, and each of those times we are going to do something. So instead of letter, I am going to rename this to position. So I will replace this with position. So what it's going to do is, let's say the word is apple, the loop will run 5 times, and each of those times we have to check, is the current letter is the same as the letter that the user guessed. And to do that we can really use this letter variable anymore because it is renamed to position, and in this case this will be the position, meaning 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. But in here we need the letter. So what we can do is, instead of using the letter, we can just go right over here and assign for our letter variable something like this. So the chosen word of the position index. So what this is going to do is, let's say, is that if the loop is running for the first time, meaning it is going to be at 0. So what this is going to do is, our letter is going to be the chosen word of the 0th position, meaning if the chosen word was apple, then this letter will be assigned the value of A. And now we are just checking, is this letter the same as the letter the user guessed? If not, then we will just go through the loop again, and we don't really need the else statement because for now we are not punishing the user for guessing the wrong letter. So we will just remove the else statement. Like this, it is going to go again and check for the second letter. So it is going to be at the first index. Then again it will go through our chosen word of the index of our position, which the position in this case is going to be 1, and at the first index the letter is P, like so. So it is going to check, is P equals to the letter that the user guessed? If it is, then we will do something. If not, it will go through the loop again. So it is going to keep repeating this process till it reaches the end of the loop, meaning when the length of our chosen word finishes. So I will fix the code again. So chosen word of the position index, like so. And after that, what we are going to do is, on our display list, we are going to access the position index, and then we are going to set that as the value of letter. So let's see what's going to happen. If our position was 0, so the loop is running for the first time, and the word, let's say, is apple. So the 0th index is going to be A, meaning this letter is going to be assigned the value of A. Now we are checking, is the letter, meaning A, the same as the letter that the user guessed? Let's say the user guessed A as well. So if it is, then we are going to access the position index, meaning the 0th index of our display list, and then replace that with the current letter. So it is going to replace this 0th index element from underscore to an A. And if, let's say, it reached at the 3rd index, meaning our letter was L, this will be replaced with L, and we are going to check, is the current letter, meaning L, the same as the user's guess? Let's say the user guessed L as well. In this case, what we are going to do is, we are going to access the display list of the 3rd index. So we are going to access the 3rd index of our display list and replace it with that letter, so on and so forth. Now I hope this wasn't confusing, but if it was and you did not know what's going on, then I recommend that you put this in the Thorny browser and debug through each step and see how each of these steps work. Now finally, what we have to do is, we have to just print out the display list like so. And now if I run the program, now it is telling us the solution so that we know the word is camel. So let's guess A. And now when I guess A, as you can see, it prints out the display list, and A is at the first index, meaning the second letter. So it is replacing the second element of our list, meaning the element at the first index, with A. But let's say we guess a letter which is not in camel, like Z. It is not going to replace any of the underscores with Z, since there is no Z in camel. And we can check it again. So in this case, the word is absolute. Let's guess A. And as you can see, A was at the 0th index, meaning the first letter of absolute, and it replaced the element at the 0th index, or the first element in our list, to A. So our code works completely fine. Again, if this seems confusing, then I'd recommend that you put it in the Thorny browser and debug through each step and understand how each of these steps are being performed. I'll see you in the next video, where we are going to be tackling the 3rd step.